Really appreciate it. So today, the NBA decided that he would be banned for life from the NBA and that he would have to pay a $2.5 million fine, and that they would get with the other board members of the Governors Association of the NBA and decide whether or not to revoke his ownership. But please keep in mind that he only owns half of the team. His wife, married under California law, owns 50% of the team, so she hasn't done anything. So she does not have to relinquish her 50% of the team. So it could be very hard for them to get him to split off his 50% ownership, and all of that wrangling could take years. So in the meantime, he will be sitting somewhere else watching the games, but he still will be profiting from them. So just a small little technicality there that we should all keep in mind. But it really had me thinking about how much money each of us, or any of us for that matter, need to make in order to tolerate racism. Whether it's on your job or it's at the place where you live, like let's say in a community where you live, or if you live in an apartment building or in a condo building or something like that. If you have a racist homeowners association, or if you have a racist boss, how much money do you have to be making in order to tolerate that racism? There is a price. I mean, we all know that. All of us will stay somewhere. Well, we think we wouldn't, but we sort of really do if you analyze it. Have you ever been on your job and said, did they just say that to me? And you know it's outright racist. It doesn't really amount to, let's say, an EEOC claim for discrimination, Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, or it doesn't really rise to a human resources violation because you sort of didn't tape it, or you can't prove it, or the person will say they never said that, you don't have any witnesses, but you know it happened. And you think, how am I supposed to work under these conditions? Or how am I supposed to live under these conditions? But yet, you still live where you live and you still work where you work. It really comes down to the idea of how much money does it take to buy your tolerance. Let's talk about some of the black organizations, like let's say the NAACP for a minute, okay? But we could use anybody. We could use the Urban League. We could use any black organizations that get money from big corporations through sponsorships and then award certain people, or just take money generally. Like let's say, for example, if somebody takes money from Georgia Pacific. Since I'm here in Georgia, I'm going to use them as an example. So Georgia Pacific is owned by two of the most racist owners you could know, called the Koch brothers, right? Now, we know that they have done everything they can to bring down President Obama. They have so much as said that they will spend all of their money doing it. Currently, they're doing attack ads against Democratic candidates here in the state of Georgia and all across the country. They use their money to create influence and messaging that goes against sort of the civil liberties things that we all believe in, or the candidates that we believe in. Let's just say that. Do you know how many people Georgia Pacific employs here in Atlanta? Do you know how many black employees they have? Or wait, do you know all of the products that they put out that we buy every day that puts money in their pockets that they then use to go against our interests? I mean, it happens every single day. So when you think about the money that you are willing to ignore or tolerate, and you know there's racist activity going on there, you have to really start to examine it. Would you expect somebody who, for example, I have a girlfriend who works at Georgia Pacific. Should I expect her to quit her job because she works for the Koch brothers? The truth is, though, that she's advancing their agenda, which has absolutely nothing in agreement with her morals, values, integrity, anything. But she needs her paycheck, right? The NAACP was about to give Donald Sterling an award, a Lifetime Achievement Award. Not the first time. This would have been the second time, even though he has a history of racism. But sponsorship dollars. How many times have companies come under fire because they've received sponsorship dollars from questionable organizations? So now what if we went back and we looked at everybody that any of our black organizations have ever honored and looked at their history and their associations? What would we find? Really, What is the value that we place on tolerating racism? Is it $20,000 for you if you're an administrative assistant and your salary is $20,000 and your boss really speaks to you very negatively? Is that $20,000 your cost of tolerating racism? So for you, it's $20,000. For somebody else, it may be $150,000. They may be an attorney working at a law firm and they are constantly, told negative things that are completely racist, that don't have anything to do with anything and just come out of the mouths of people who are normally used to being in environments where they don't have to deal with minorities. Is that $150,000 the amount of money that it takes to buy you and buy your tolerance? That's what it is. It's buying tolerance. Because I know it's a hard place to be because you think I have to eat. I mean, I don't have the answer to this. I'm just raising this. I don't have the answer to it because I know what it is like to work in an environment where there is racism going on. And racism isn't always blatant. So you can't say, oh, well, I saw it happening right there and I'm able to, call the authorities and get reprieve. No, a lot of times racism is going to happen to you and you're not going to be able to do anything about it. But when you are being employed by it or your money is dependent on it, you really have to ask yourself, how much is my tolerance being bought for? How much am I being paid to ignore racism? How much am I being paid to turn my cheek to that nasty comment that person just made about me? Whether they call you the N-word, whether they look at you in a lustful sort of, gross slave owner type way. You know what that is. Don't even get all offended by that. You know what that look is, and you've gotten it before if you've been a black woman. Or you walk into a mall store and the people in the store just don't want to serve you and you know it's discrimination. But what can you do? Can you shut the store down? Well, probably if 100,000 other people did the same thing along with you. But the problem is that it's so hard, or we believe that it's so hard to fight individually. So we just don't try to. So for the NBA players, well, what was the value of the amount of money that it cost for their tolerance, to buy their tolerance of the racist activity that's been, by the way, going on in the NBA for a very long time? You don't think that those players knew that Donald Sterling was a racist when they came onto that team? All of a sudden, everybody's, I love the Kevin Johnson rant today. And, nothing against Kevin Johnson, but, there's a rant. Look into what happened with the Black Mayors Association debacle with Kevin Johnson. But anyway, I digress. But let's look at, oh, this was needed. We absolutely needed to do this. Okay, well, there's been major racism problems in the NBA for a long time. What did you exactly think was going to be the NBA's reaction? What always happens when there is a public outcry? Something happens and then you turn the blind eye and it goes away and it comes back again. We saw that when Trayvon Martin was killed. Oh, everybody rallied. Trayvon. Did we have that same exact reaction when Jordan Davis was killed in what became known as the loud music killing, the loud music trial? That trial wasn't about loud music. That was about a boy being killed at a gas station. But because there wasn't as much outcry, we didn't have on, clothes that represented Jordan. We weren't driving in our cars blasting our music as a symbol of solidarity. We kind of had passed through it. We kind of were like, okay, that happened. That's what this is. Please don't think this means that there are going to be sweeping changes across the NBA, because what really did you expect the NBA to do? What would the NBA have looked like if they hadn't come down that hard on him? They didn't have a choice. Let's see what the owners do. You don't think that Donald Sterling hung out with a bunch of the other owners sitting around swapping the value of black players? Well, if you take that Negro, I'll take this Negro. If you take him, I'll take him. No, he's stockier, better built, stronger, faster, cleaner. I'll take him. No, that one is going to be great. He's younger. You don't think that was going on? Very reminiscent of a slave auction, right? Dare I say. Very much so. So it just had me thinking, what is the cost to buy your turned eye to racism? It's whatever you're getting paid on your job, even though you work in a racist environment for a racist boss. If you work in a corporation that constantly works against your self-interest, it's that amount. For the NBA players, it's 50, 60, 10, 40, whatever million amount it is, that's the amount for them. The real question is, are you ever going to be able to walk away from whatever amount is for you to bring about a greater change? Because the problem is one employee can't really make as huge an impact. Now, that's not saying that one employee can't. One employee with the right stuff, like, for example, Donald Sterling's mistress, who happened to have him recorded several times. No accident. Believe you me, this was all set up for her gain in order for her to bring down an NBA owner. And the underlying story is, oh, he was a racist. So he loses everything. I understand that, but believe me, she will gain. She will get a book deal. She will become your next reality star. And God, like hoping this doesn't happen, women want to be just like her. But it will. Certain women are saying right now, I heard someone say, she came up. You know how stupid that sounds? She's a whore. She's a whore who used a little bit of advice to record a man who needed to be found out anyway. Okay, I give her, I don't even dare use the word credit. It was a good plan. But she is a whore. She was with a married man. She was taking the money from his family, and she was fine with it. Showing up at the games, doing all of that or whatever, and now she will be rewarded for that with a book deal, with a reality show, with a one. Right now, you know what's happening? They're setting up the one-on-one interview with her and Barbara Walters. That's what's happening right now. Whoever's going to be the first person to sit down with her, it's either going to be Barbara Walters or Oprah Winfrey. That's who it will be. And then she will reveal, you know, all that went into it and the pain that she suffered and the anguish of him calling her a whore as she drove away from the $1 billion home in a Bentley that he paid for. Really? Okay, I digress. That was not supposed to be what this is about. This is about the dollar amount that you put on your turning away from racism. Allowing it in your life for a certain amount of money. And the reason why I came up with this conversation was because I heard people actually saying on the radio, well, I do work in a racist environment, but you know, I'm just going to wait until I can set something else up and then I'm going to leave. So I'm going to wait until and tolerate being degraded, working in an unhealthy environment, being substandard to somebody, being thought of that way amongst all my peers until I can find something else. I mean, I guess I understand it. I hate it, though. I hate it. So really, the only question I have for you right now is how much money does it take for you to turn a blind eye to racism? We can put a dollar amount on our black organizations doing it. We can put a dollar amount on the NBA players doing it. But what's the dollar amount that it would take for you to turn your head to obvious racism going on in your life? I'm curious, so give me your answers at the end of this blog. All right, have a great night, and I'll be back with more.